Hey, it's Jim Keaty, and I've been reaching out to a lot of close friends, families, and clients, and inevitably we're always end up talking about how this COVID-19 is affecting the real estate industry in Lafayette and in Louisiana. So I thought I would give a summary of what's happening out there and how COVID-19 is affecting the real estate industry as a whole. So the governor of Louisiana made the COVID-19 statewide stay-at-home order on Sunday, March 22nd. The Louisiana Realtors did provide the realtors with some clarity on how that would immediately affect the real estate business. And although Louisiana real estate has not been classified as an essential business, realtors and real estate companies are exempt from the stay-at-home order because we fall underneath the Section 5 of the proclamation, which states that operations can continue with minimum contact with members of the public and essential employees while requiring proper social distancing. Further, the 10-person limitation on gathering size applies to all of our business. So no open houses, and most real estate offices are closed to the public, and most real estate office staffers are working from home right now. However, we can still list homes, we can still show homes, and we can still close homes while practicing safe social distancing. We're seeing much more use of video and virtual open houses. We're even doing showings via FaceTime and Facebook Live. Technology has become very important and critical in our business these days. So one thing I want to point out though is the good news is, unlike the stock market, we have not seen any impact on the values of the housing market. The sky is not falling. These are very challenging times, but according to our chief economist of the National Association of Realtors, Dr. Lawrence Yun, had stated that the short-term negative impact of this virus is going to pass. We don't expect the U.S. housing market to fall like the stock market because of the nature of this crisis seems to be temporary. The housing market was on very solid footing going into this crisis. The banks are solid, the values are solid, they're not inflated. There's the supply and demand is strong, and when all this is over, we should be right back where we were before this crisis. Now, you're hearing a lot about the Feds dropping interest rates. When the Feds cut interest rates, what they control directly is the Fed's fund rate, which are rates for the short-term loans that the banks are borrowing money at. The Fed rates are not mortgage rates. Mortgage rates do not necessarily move one-to-one with the Fed rate, but generally the fact that we're in a very accommodating monetary policy means mortgage rates will be at historic lows. Mortgage rates are about 3.3%, and it could even go down to 3%. So we have an adverse stock market, and we also have incredibly low interest rates. Most of our clients are attracted to the low interest rates, and that's not very surprising because almost half of all Americans do not have any exposure in the stock market. So nearly half of Americans are just looking at low interest rates, and when the interest rates go down, they're thinking, fantastic, perfect, this is a great time to get in the housing market or refinance my house. However, interest rates are currently incredibly volatile, and they are rising and falling almost an entire percentage point within a day. So the rate that you're quoted in the morning could be 0.5% different from the rate, either higher or lower than the rate that you're quoted in the afternoon. So I've been told that the rates are fluctuating so much because they're trying to regulate the flow of the loans, because everybody sees low interest rates, so they all want to refinance or buy a house. So what's happening is they're getting too much demand, so they're raising the interest rates to regulate the flow of the loan applications coming in. When they catch up, the rates go back down. So you really need to contact your lender to discuss the right strategy to get the lowest interest rate to refinance your house or to purchase. To put this into perspective, this time last year at the same exact time, interest rates were at 4.8%. And now we're looking at 3.2. So an average house of $200,000 last year at the same time cost a buyer about $1,000 in principal and interest payments. That same $200,000 house today would cost that same buyer $835 in principal and interest payments. That is $165 less per month, or $59,000 over a typical 30-year loan. That's a huge amount of savings. So that makes a big difference. That same buyer, if he wants to buy a more expensive house and keep that payment at $1,000, he or she is now looking at a $235,000 house with the same exact payments that they would have last year at a $200,000 house. So their purchasing power just went up $35,000. Our business overall is absolutely changing, and it's evolving every single day. We have seen more virtual showings. We're even doing listing appointments virtually, even with people who are in Lafayette. We've adopted new addendums that we're implementing because of this crisis. We've adopted an addendum called a health crisis addendum that basically gives notice to buyers and the sellers that if we're unable to close a contract due to the health crisis, then it allows for an extension of that closing for a period of time. We're also seeing buyers that typically would not move in until closing, moving in before closing because closing is getting pushed back. So, and that closings are getting pushed back not because we can't close, but because of the volume of loan applications with the lenders is holding things up a little bit. So it's taking longer for us to get final loan approval. It's pushing the closings back, and the buyers are moving in before closing. But when it comes to showings and purchasing houses, some homeowners don't want us going into their house at all. Some sellers are taking their house off the market, while others are putting their house on the market and want us to show. The one thing that's universal is we're all taking extra precautions, and we're asking sellers to turn on all the lights if we are going to show their house. Turn on all the lights, open up all the doors to limit the amount of human contact in the house. We're also using wipes to wipe down behind us, and in some cases, we're using masks and gloves to enter the home. It really depends on both buyer and seller, and even the agent. Some agents are working, others are, with underlying conditions or who are susceptible, have chosen not to work, and they're not leaving their house. But one thing I'm seeing more of is more compassion, more patience, more teamwork, even between competitors. People are stepping up to the plate and helping others that are unable to work during these times. It's actually very inspiring. Each office, each broker, each agent, each seller and buyer are all doing things just a little bit differently, but we're all trying to practice safe hygiene and safe social distancing when we are working. Some of the challenges that we're faced with is, everybody's doing business differently now. And some inspectors aren't working, some are. Appraisers are doing the same thing. Some appraisers don't want to go in the house, some don't mind. Closings are all different. Some closings are happening actually at their cars. They're coming out, signing paperwork at their cars. Some title companies, it's business as usual with just only asking the people who have to sign to come in the closing. No kids, no realtors, no lenders, that sort of thing. So everybody's doing things differently, but things are still getting done. It's really become a case-by-case situation, but for now, everything's happening. We have lost contracts. We've lost deals because of some buyers losing their jobs temporarily, hopefully. And all those buyers were either extending the closings or were canceling the contract. They all want to buy moving into the summer if they get their job back, which I'm sure they will. And one thing to keep in mind is going into this situation, January and February were record-breaking months. It was one of the best starts to the year that we've seen. Lafayette Parish reported a 32% increase year over year. Now, last year was a record-breaking year. It was the best year in Lafayette history. This year, January and February were up 32% from last year. New construction sales, this was a huge win, up 50% in January and February compared to last year. That's huge, and that was a big win for the new construction sector. Our pendings were up going into March 10%. So we were, our supply and demand was very healthy. Things were looking very, very optimistic for another record-breaking year before COVID-19 came into Lafayette. Overall, Going into this crisis, our housing market was strong, although we know that some of our pendings have fallen through now, mostly because buyers losing their job. We will not know what April and May will look like just yet, but we're expecting fewer pendings in March, which will lead to fewer sales, and our volume is going to be down in April and May. Sales and volume is going to be down in April and May. We know that. However, most buyers that are working, they just can't put things on hold. Buyers and sellers, the same. There are some buyers that have to move, and there's some sellers that have to sell. So things are still happening. We are still listing houses. We are still putting houses under contract. And one thing for sure is that when this passes, a lot of people are coming back into the market. Even in this time of uncertainty, you know, many buyers and sellers are in this market. The buyers that are in the market are very, very serious buyers. They're not going to look for fun. Most agents will not go show them a house unless they think it's the right house for them. So if you're a seller out there and you do get a showing, which there's not many showings happening, but the ones that are happening, the buyers are very, very serious. So that's, you know, a surprise to most people. After this crisis is over, I think it's likely that we're going to see more people decide to start working from home. We might even see some people who don't have that extra office space at home, and they say, you know what, I want to work more from home. I need an extra office space, or I need an extra bedroom. They're going to start looking for houses with additional space. Some people might say, oh, I need an extra playroom. My kids are driving me crazy. Or we might even get the opposite. Some people might say, we need to downsize. We've got too much space. We need to clean out. Overall, I think it's a little premature to project what the effects of this virus are going to have on the real estate market in 2020. I'm Jim Keaty with Keaty Real Estate. On behalf of the entire real estate community, I hope that your family is safe and healthy, and if there's ever anything we can do for you, please let us know.